Alright, I'm back with yet another update, and of course, progress has been made. So here we have the box tipped backward onto where the amps would go. And this is a new piece right here that I've done up. This is actually a kerf. Plus, I did try to kerf these, but yeah, this was done at 4 a.m, so I couldn't use the circular saw. So I just had to use the hacksaw to make these kerfs, which was annoying. So it wouldn't reach for this bit, so I just thought, oh, bugger it, I'll just completely cut it in half with the jigsaw, which is substantially quieter than the circular saw. And yeah, it just didn't angle, so I could get this to be vertical here, but also lean up against the side of the box, which is not, which, yeah, you can see it's an angle. So yeah, some more's been done. I just got done adding some bog to the top of the box, but the main part I was doing was inside, as I'm thinking based on just kind of how the gluing has gone. It's not the most rigid of baffles. Honestly, it's not bad, and I'm definitely going to add more bracing, as I would like to have the option of not just having it support the weight of the tens, but the operation of the tens without the box falling apart, and possibly even swapping out the tens for something more powerful in the future, as this is one of those fancy sub boxes, and it just kind of feels like a bit of a shame making a fancy looking sub box that's not capable of eventually one day having some high power subs in it, like 500 watts each or more. Yeah, once again, this box is 10 drivers, so if I've got 500 watts a sub, then that's 5,000 watts, or even 1,000 watts a sub, it'd be 10,000, which is actually one hell of a bump box. So yeah, 10,000 be crazy. Like, there are 10,000 watt walls out there, for example, like an obvious example is EXO's Little Blue. It's 10,000 watts, or what is it, two Crescendo 5500 watt amplifiers, so it's more than 10,000 watts, but you know, you get the idea. People can and have done. In fact, I've seen a 1500 watt wall before, and this is going to be 1700 watts. So yeah, anyway, right now the bog is actually 50-50 cosmetic, structural, and 50% sealing, which is 150% total. So it's doing more work than I'm really asking of it. So so right now these I ended up with some quite large gaps through here, so I just completely filled it with this stuff. And yeah, once again, it is 2-part filler, so it should set quite hard, and it only takes about 15 minutes. I can still feel it's warm. So this stuff I also really like, and you get a big tin of it for like bugger all. It's funny, the small tins are like $20, and then the big tins are $25 or $16 for a small tin and $20 for a big tin. Big tin is twice the size, so yeah, big tin for sure. I think I'm tempted to one day make an entire sub box just out of that bog to see how well it does. Just cast sheets of this stuff. But yeah, right now it's just kind of filling up gaps, and in bits like here it's acting structural. And back there I've also got it doing the job of doing some sealing back there, as I'm going to have to make the formwork around the back here, but just for the moment these are in their place, so I'll just put some in these gaps here. So anyway, what I've done with the ports, in order to get a bit more clearance, this was originally at about yay far, or you can see the same as that. So I just got out the calipers and scored 2 lines, and then drilled some holes and jigsawed out this, yeah, portcullis shape. I think that's the right term. But yeah, anyway, then the flared port section goes in here. This is short here in order to keep the seal all the way around, and then these bit longer bits to kind of hold it. So this bit's for sealing, this bit's for holding. So bare minimum material on that. I also kind of wanted to do that, is it will hopefully make it look a bit less like bloody irrigation, you know, roof drain stormwater pipe on an otherwise hopefully fancy looking sub box. Alright, and as per tradition on this channel, it's time for the old one to skip a few. Plus a bonus, apologies for rain on tin roof and wind noises in the background. Yeah, what's happened recently is a few main things. I'm pretty sure those bits weren't in there, so I'll discuss those in a sec. The ports have been fixed in place, and thirdly, these rear panels have been made, and I have also started the expanding foam for the complex curved bits. These bits at the back here, these are actually made of the wood that was in this place right here. What I did basically with these is set the jigsaw to 45 degrees, actually held it at 45 degrees because the base wouldn't fit in there, and just jigsaw up. You can see that I ended up with these small landings where I could glue the inner section onto the back of where it was before. So these are stepped out using the original wood, so nice and material efficient, and they'll hopefully be strong enough. I think, yeah, they should be right, but if not, I'll just fiberglass it. I'll strength test it till failure later. The next thing I did was put the ports in place, which is pretty simple. I just put some markings on the bottom of the box and then pushed them around until they kind of seemed even enough, marked where they sat, and then sanded the bit of pipe where it was going to be glued onto something so it would have a bit more adhesion, because PVC is not really great for that stuff. And then, yep, glued it in place just with super glue. I also put a couple wedges beneath it to act as guides, just using the like 45 offcuts from other things. But yeah, these bits here, this is a technique I use for curved sections, or where one angle lines up with, say, an angle there, but it's vertical here, which is a method that some of you may recognize from older video games in particular, which is tessellation. You can basically approximate curves using flat pieces of material by cutting them into triangles and then stacking the triangles as such. So, for example, the reason why I say older video games is, although it's still used in modern video games, it's just they're able to do it with so many triangles these days. It's often hard to actually notice unless there's no texture applied to the game. That is, unless everything is a flat color, you won't notice where one texel becomes the next texel, because they use texturing to blend them, so it's really hard to tell. It's a really cool technique, but older games in particular, a classic example, Lara Croft Tomb Raider, you know exactly what I'm talking about, the original one. Yeah. So yeah, that's basically the technique I use for these curves at the back. Although they aren't perfect curves, they are triangles and flat planes. So I've still got the option to, I've maximized the efficiency of the airspace. I can now go over it with the expanding foam on the outside and carve it back flat and fiberglass over it. But that's later, because I need to do that so I know the shape of the boot lid inside, because otherwise I might add more material than I should, or not add as much as I could. So what else is left to do? It's actually coming along quite well. Of course, there definitely needs to be more filler done around there and more belt sanding on the bits up there. But realistically, this is almost a sealed box, because all these big gaps here are filled with speakers. So it's just around the ports now that I need to fill, which will be a flat bit of wood parallel with the bottom of the box that comes down there, and then probably goes halfway up the pipes, comes down, and then back up there. And then in this middle bit, it'll kind of go up onto that bit there. So it'll kind of come up. Alright, mandatory scruffy looking, dirty handed update video. The box is right in front of me. I'm not letting you look at it right now. Alright, here it is. Alright, so what I've done basically is I imagine everything I said I was going to do in the last bit I did before, and just in case I didn't mention what I did just now, I put in this bit down here. Probably mentioned I was going to do that. I did. The other bits just being fiberglass, so now both bits are fiberglassed, or sorry, fiberglassing. Well, I have fiberglassed. It is now setting. I can finish words. See that foam in there? That is not just foam, it's also got wood behind it. It's like a wooden kind of pyramid looking thing behind it. So it's not just floating there, and it is actually kind of adding volume to the box. So yeah, I have been able to get this whole space down here, which is 10 centimeters deep. So every 10 centimeters, 10 by 10 centimeters or 100 square centimeters here is an extra litre inside the box. So just that bit there. So it's about 60 by 30. So 6 by 3 is 18 litres. So yeah, just that. It's not very warm in here. It should be fine, because I know not very warm in here in Australia is probably hotter than any other country gets. Like those two bits there, and that bottom bit is also very well braced. So I've got two more bits going that way, which are attached here. See those screws there and there? So this bit's also very heavily braced all the way through here now. I'm not really happy with this triangle behind there in terms of bracing, so I might end up adding a bit more to it. But yeah, you can see this fiberglass bit here. I can't remember if I had it on video footage before, but I had a bit of an issue with some of the fiberglass and some of the bog, which is it seemed to be eating away at the expanding foam. So although the expanding foam was cut flush before, and the first layer of bog I put on was flush also, yeah, it seems to have kind of gone back down about 3 millimeters. So that's got a layer of fiberglass over the top just to add a bit of strength to it, even though that bit there foam wise doesn't hold that much pressure. Yeah, speaking of filler, you can see it over the bog right there, as I said, and these bits down here are really hard to access. So yeah, it's really crusty looking. Like, it looks as rough, well, it feels as rough as it looks there. It's really smooth up in this bit, it's beautiful, but down here I just can't reach it really. Well, by hand I can't put force on it, and I don't really have any tools sanding wise that would do a good job of it. Maybe the drill with like a barrel sander, but even then I've got to get it in weird angles that I just can't really get into because it's really deep in there. So I'm just gonna take the tops off, the crests off, and then just backfill it with the filler. So, and see how that goes. There was a slight issue with the magnets from this speaker and that speaker do actually collide, so I think I might just have to make another ring, one of these rings, and sand down the front, and then it'll just be tilted forward, so it'll be like a crescent. It'll start thick there, get thinner, and then zero basically, and then get thicker back to there. So that's how that'll stop those magnets colliding with each other. I'll be adding more bracing. Bracing's really good. It's got a very high strength to volume ratio. So it, as I've mentioned earlier, it adds a lot of strength adding bracing, but without taking away that much volume. Whereas if I were to use thicker wood, that would take up volume of the box, more volume than it's worth. So I just add a bit more bracing just to make up for things like the thin walls and also the weird baffle shape. But yep, alright, call it this one. Thanks for watching. Leave a like if you think this box is interesting enough, or dislike if you want even something fancier, or just leave a comment or go into more detail about what you reckon. And give some advice to me in a month's time after this box is already done when this video comes out. Thanks for watching, and also subscribe, to see more, even though this is probably part 3 or 4, and you probably already subscribed. See ya.